Goes into a full clear Demon Wrath.
Yep. Just trying to prepare his way for the Flame Wreath Faceless, 4-mana 7/7 coming down, and of course punching for 6 on the following turn.
Yeah, Losefield with a bit of an awkward hand. I mean, cannot play the Giant, has to life tap and play the Mistress of Mixtures, and then hopes to set up some kind of Shambler with an 8/8, but that's giving the Shaman about 2 to 3 turns to get the damage in.
This, I think, is going to be the beginning of the end for Losefield. It's a very fast game, primarily because he hasn't had the early game plays. And Staz had a reasonable opening. It wasn't the most explosive opening, but how do you deal with this Flame Wreath Faceless? You can't really. And I forgot about the overload, so it's punching for 8 damage this turn.
Yeah, with the Tunnel Shrug on top of that. So that means Losefield goes down to 10 health and is pretty much locked out of the game. Even a Hellfire wouldn't do very much here. He would need Power Overwhelming with the Coin Shadow Flame to stabilize. That would give him some health back from the Mistress, I think.
That wouldn't even be enough.
Oh, yeah,
he
the 6/6.
wouldn't be able to deal with the Flame Wreath Faceless.
So just get the 4 health back and...
I mean, Staz only has to think if he wants to trade into this 2/2 or not. What's the value of killing it? Does he lose something unnecessarily because he didn't, play around it? The worst punishment that I see for leaving it up is your opponent has a Mortal Coil and then trades into the Tunnel Trog and then coins into a Blast Crystal Potion that moves to 7/7. Then you are at... Then
he goes back up.
Your opponent goes up to 14 and you have 4 on the board. So it does feel a little bit bad if that scenario. But that's very specific.
So fringe. That is such a fringe scenario. I don't think I'd worry about it too much. I mean, you could try to hand read into it.
Okay.
All right, so he's going to at least try to protect his minions.
He's trying to account for everything, just in case. But with this, I don't really anticipate Kazaka's doing anything. I think he needs to take a 1-mana potion and freeze the 7/7.
Or get the 3 damage on the Tunnel Trog. That's another option if that doesn't show up.
That is true. So I think Kazakis, 1-mana spell. You can take 2 damage AoE is reasonable, gains you 2 life. And freeze a random minion. So there is that possibility.
Yeah, there could be a freeze on the 7/7 and a potential comeback from Losefield. But let's see what happens. He's still not dead, though. Even if the 7/7 hits once, game's not completely over. Feels bad.
Man.
Yep.
That's 11 damage right now. Or, sorry, 9 damage. So if you play the Jade Claws... I mean, the reason why I like Jade Claws is it sets you up for to use the weapon charges over 2 turns. And then you do 9 damage this turn, and you do 6 damage the following turn.
On the back of just Jade Lightning, without even requiring any minion to survive. So assuming the board gets cleared up, you still have the 6 damage necessary.
Okay. But that's, you kind of hope that some of your board survives. The nice thing about Feral Spirits is that it's the most mana-efficient play. But then you can't play Jade Claw next turn either, because then you can't play Jade Lightning and Jade Claws, and you might need every single bit of damage. So maybe you just play Jade Claws and then use the weapon to clear
clear
the Kazakis.
You prevent any type of AoE clear, and then you might set yourself up for...
You could also play Maelstrom Portal. I mean...
That's an option.
Kind of feels similar-ish, like in the sense that you summon like a minion and... you can still do the damage with the weapon plus Jade Lightning next turn. There's a possibility. Yeah.
Is there any card in Losefield's deck that helps here? I mean, if he taps into Coil and gets a 2-cost card, there's nothing that'll kill the 7/5, unfortunately. It's not looking good. Oh!
Yeah.
The unfortunate ordering of the draw there.
Literally, Staz can't really lose in this position. He can just do whatever he wants. So he's just going to attack face for the 7. No real BM. Very classy guy. Yeah. Gentleman.
All right, well, that's kind of a typical, aggro shaman nowadays against some of the decks that don't find their early game. That's kind of the weakness of Reno decks, of course, is that they have a limited amount of early game and they need to find it at the right time. Right. Doomsayer came in a bit too late and no Blast Crystal to deal with the 7/7.
This is why people are saying that maybe Reno Warlock is more of a outside fringe deck for the tournament lineups. It's not a bad deck. People can't confuse Reno Warlock as a bad deck with a deck that has specific uses in the metagame. If all of a sudden everyone started killing aggro shaman and people bring mid-range shaman, then Reno Warlock is awesome.
Yeah, it's a different metagame entirely there. And I feel that's what's amazing about the current meta is that a lot of the decks that shift in and out have different applications. It's kind of rare that you have these ubiquitous decks. Aside from, say, Shaman, who gets to dictate some of the pace of the meta, most of the other decks can gravitate around and inside of it depending on how they feel.
Agreed. Now, Staz goes with Rogue. Very good choice, in my opinion. Now has double Pillager and Van Cleef while being already on the coin.
Yeah.
But this is good for Warlock. Warlock's looking for exactly this, too. Mountain Giant on turn 4. Yeah. Assuming he can get to there safely enough.
I love the mulligan decision, too, from Losefield of throwing away the Acidic Swamp Ooze. I see a lot of Reno Warlock players keep it against Rogues thinking, well, they have a weapon, I have a weapon removal, it's got to be worth keeping at least. But the truth of it is, it doesn't really remove anything worthwhile, so...
Yeah. And you need that 4-mana play.
Yeah.
You desperately need that. Now, Staz, no Pirate, ends up just drawing a little bit situational stuff. Conceal's not that bad, though.
You ever go all in?
Oh, you want to 8-8 Van Cleef right now.
You could just coin out, prep, Fan of Knives, and Hail Mary the 8-8 into transition into a bit of a slow Tomb Pillager. But
yeah, your opponent can't deal with it next turn. If he plays Doomsayer, you trade into it. If well, yeah, you can't Blast Crystal Potion it either. That might not be that bad. You translate it to 16 damage, so you can put your opponent down to 12. The optimistic scenario.
And you probably have enough time to get the Tomb Pillagers for the coins on Gadded Sand later. But he's going to opt to play it a little bit slower and take his time.
I don't blame him. His hand is really good. He has double Pillager and the Van Cleef. Whew. And Backstab. So now he can even deal with the Giant.
Let's go.
Doesn't need to deal with the Giant next turn, but he can. I personally think dealing with the Giant's really powerful, or really good move, because you need to prevent Face of Shambler from destroying you.
I was going to say, that's probably one of the most difficult things to handle on Twilight Drake or Giant. Is just a Shambler play in the mid-game is just really crushing, even if you have Sab.
Is this the turn you play Van Cleef? It has to be. Wait, it doesn't have to be. You can just play... let's see, hold on. You can trade. You're definitely going to want to trade in the Pillager.
The Pillager
We can play Backstab... Patches, or sorry, the small-time Buccaneer, use Patches to trade into it, and then play a Van Cleef as a 6/6. Or you can prep Fan, save Patches,
and then stealth everything anyway. Yeah. There's actually a few ways to do this. There's the alternative play, which is really boring, of let me face tank this and develop another Pillager on the board.
You know, so we can either make an 8 Van Cleef that's stealth it, follow up with the Pirate and Tomb Pillager, or we can play the second Tomb Pillager, or we can just play a basic Van Cleef, not like super big, like a 6/6.
Yeah.
That's also fine too.
Which I think is what he's aiming at right now. It's not clear yet, but...
He gets the coin, so he's going to coin Van Cleef and then... Okay, so he's going to do both then.
Alright, the hybridized play. Sure.
I like it. Did he get to attack with the dagger?
I think he did, yeah.
Dang, look at that APM. Should have played the StarCraft.
Yeah, what is he doing here? Let's go to StarCraft with this. All right, Demon Wrath, helpful a little bit to mitigate some of the damage that's on the board. But again, it's kind of a marginal thing. Helps a bit.
Yeah, it's actually pretty significant to play this Ooze, because now Staz can't actually remove it as easily.
Wow.
Yikes.
This is a hand that was very, very good, but it's still missing a few pieces. Because if the Warlock has any answer, and we're turning into turn 6, with Siphon Soul as a possibility, suddenly your board isn't looking as likely to stick around as it was.
What makes Staz's play interesting was that before, when he made his Van Cleef play, it was before the Siphon Soul, but now his opponent can Siphon, and Staz chose to go all in a turn later, which gave Lose enough time to be able to react, and so now all of a sudden it feels like Lose is in a really good spot.
Yeah, it goes back to the decision of going all in on Van Cleef earlier rather than later, and he chose to wait a little bit, which puts him in a more long-term position of winning. Like, he keeps the preparation, and if Gadgesan comes up, then that gives him more fuel, but he still needs to pick up that card, and as we all know, well, sometimes it just likes to lurk at the bottom of the deck.
Sure. Well, Losefield, I was thinking about Siphon originally, but you can't really deal with the 5/4 otherwise, so it feels a little bit weak. I don't think Dark Peddler and Blast Potion would be much better, though. But at least you would develop a way to challenge the Tomb Pillager. Like, the problem with I have with this play is that you don't actually have a way to kill the Tomb Pillager still next turn, unless you want to use Blast Crystal Potion.
Yeah, I think that's what he's looking at, because if he keeps if the Blast Crystal for turn 7, he can actually use Peddler with the 1-drop, followed with the Blast Crystal, so that gives him 7 mana utilization, as opposed to just the 6 he would have had this turn.
Wow, lands a second Agidrake. That's huge for Staz. And Losefield needs to stabilize here, so Dark Peddler search for an answer. He can get a Power Overwhelming Shadow Flame or Abusive Shadow Flame. That'd be really good. Yeah,
one of the most painful things, though, is Blast Crystal would put the Twisting Nether 1 turn later than it is right now, and it just wouldn't feel good at all.
You're right, you're right.
So this Blast Crystal, just not appealing.
The highest value is Reliquary Seeker, because that has max potential to be a 5/5 at maximum activation. But Lowly Squire is like more sturdy, and then Dragon Egg, you don't really have Defender of Argus, you don't have Sunfree Protector, you don't even have like a Power Overwhelming to combine it with something, so Dragon Egg's kind of weak. Takes the Lowly Squire, best raw stats available.
And he's going to go for the Blast Crystal Potion, hope that Staz doesn't have anything to follow up. Doesn't want to give his opponent the coin here, and remove the spell damage from the board, of course, by killing the Drake, so...
Yeah, that's right. Force your opponent to trade into it. Second Drake coming down. And it's a Gadget Stand Auctioneer, so Staz probably has to make a pretty hard choice right now of, like, if he wants to play the Thanos or Dagger. Playing Thanos just helps him dig deeper into his deck, so Gadget Stand's less clunky. Oh my goodness.
That's a draw.
Yeah, it's a draw, but it's also a little bit
risky.
Dicey, yeah. You put yourself
feels that
down
way.
to 11 health. Leroy, Cold Blood, Coin Dagger. That'd be lethal.
Yeah, but I mean, on the flip side, right? If you did try to Shadow Flame something, you would probably end up in a position where one of the minions lives.
Whoa, that's lethal. Oh my goodness.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I mean...
Cold Blood or Eviscerate did it.
He played that really fast. Sorry, Losefield did. Although it seemed like the cleanest play. Like, I don't know if I can necessarily fault him. 7 mana,
there was nothing
AoE
else,
clear, really. 11. Your opponent has to specifically have Leroy plus thing. But this goes to show you how it paid off that Staz dug a card deeper with Blood Mage. A lot of people probably considered daggering there, but then they would have drawn one part of the Leroy Eviscerate, not the other. So they would have gotten 2 damage in, but then missed out on the opportunity. And then if they draw Reno, if they draw any kind of heal, the game completely changes. Yeah. So a job well done to Staz. Very good rogue play, I think. Very stable and sturdy. Not like super all-in and gambly, but very logical. And you can see that even though this is a matchup that rogue was favored in, it just felt like he was in control the entire time, and he played solidly. He didn't have to rely on just abusing the matchup mechanics. Yeah,
and Losefield was on the back foot from the very early turns when the Edwin started becoming big. And there was also the conundrum of the Blast Crystal Potion. You know, losing the Mana Crystal before Twisting Nether felt really clunky, and we saw in action how that play can actually lead to some disasters when it's played too early in the game. Because the Reno Lock really wants to play it very, very late so as to not suffer for the lack of their Mana Crystal. I don't really fault Losefield for any of the plays that he made. There weren't really too many lines of play to take this game that allowed him to clear the board as it kept being developed.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big problems of playing the Arena Warlock is that many times in the early stages of the game, you're just hoping that you can draw the right half of your deck. You can see Losefield just pivoting to a different strategy because Arena Warlock there's not a lot of confidence going into it right now. Druid, in the meantime, Druid has an amazing amount of consistency these days. I was doing some math on it, and if you play like, you know, Innervates, Wild Growths, and say you play the Jade versions with Nourishes, that's 8 cards of ramp. By turn 2, you have a 63% chance to hit ramp, and if you're going second, you have like a 70% chance. Yeah. So it's absurd actually how often you hit one of those cards. I mean, that doesn't necessarily work out evenly. Sometimes you have Innervate and nothing to Innervate out. Sometimes you have Jade Blossom and nothing. You don't have the coin on it. But it's interesting to see how consistent Druid is to ramp, because we always think, man, they always have
they always have the ramp, don't they?
But it's like, yeah, they do, because statistically it happens.
Yeah. And even if that's one of the things too, is that because there's so many Reno decks in the metagame, when you see Nourish, it doesn't look like ramp, but in truth, it can be treated as such. Like, if the metagame's slow enough, you can just use it for ramp, and in some cases, you'll just get the card draw, which is, you know, just as good.
Don't disagree with you there. Staz really thinking about if he wants to do anything besides hero power this turn. And, you know, turn 4 is usually pretty important because Druid can coin out a 5-mana play, either Nourish or Drake. In this case, I think coining out Nourish for crystals is pretty decent. You already have 2 sources of draw with the Thanos and the Azure Drake. You get to ramp up. Okay. Losefield does not want to fall behind in tempo, so he plays the Drake. Not the best card for tempo, but it's better than what his opponent has.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at Staz, right, his range would be Forgotten Torch, Frostbolt, Arcane Blast. All these cards answer the Drake quite cleanly, so you don't expect your Drake to really give you the tempo, but you're setting up for like a bigger board in a few turns after you've nourished into maybe crystals and followed up with some giants, because I believe this is the Malagos version.
Yes, it is the Malagos with Faceless Manipulator.
Yeah.
So you've got intense amount of combos going on.
Wow. Okay, we'll protect the Drake against Arcane Blast and against Forgotten Torch, but not against Frostbolt Ping, but it's not there, so.
Yeah, that was ambitious. Now, I wonder if Staz is going to play the Water Elemental here, or does he want to set up to make it really awkward for Losefield to deal with his Doomsayer, because he could Doomsayer and ping and then set up for an Arcane Blast ping. I mean, I don't really think he has a really good hand otherwise to do that, because he doesn't have any way to squeeze in his mana, so it's better to just play Water Elemental.
Yeah, I like the Water Elemental. 6 health is kind of tough for Druid to deal with cleanly. They have to spend a bunch of spells on it, and even though they have the mana in this case with the Drake, it's still kind of awkward.
Well, Losefield chooses to draw cards with his Nourish, and I mean, I guess with his deck, he has to draw a 5 to 6 card combo. Yeah. So if you're so insistent on preserving your combo pieces, and you need to really cycle deep into the deck, this could be exactly why he chooses to draw instead of ramp early on. Yeah,
some people have cut Faceless Manipulator out of that list and just, you know, straight up used Malagos with the damage spells to deal with the, you know, control decks. You can still get enough reach through that alone without Faceless. And the Faceless means that he's got extra tools in the deck or an extra combo piece, which means that he has to draw even more in that case, so it does make sense. That's kind of a weird spot, because you can't curve anything if you're Staz on top of just killing the Drake. So maybe you just freeze it and play the Refreshment Vendor, but that opens you up to a swipe very, very harshly.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm trying to figure out if it's even better to play Doomsayer in this position.
Yeah.
Like, attack, ping Doomsayer, get the tempo, play the 3-5, and then file against Portal while you have initiative.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. That's probably the best line to play as far as tempo, because you're going to get it back on 7 after you have a 3-5 on the board.
I mean, Refreshment Vendor is also not bad in this position. It's just not amazing.
Yeah. You don't want to give him a 5 damage swipe that's going to kill the Water Elemental on the leftover. So it just feels...
Wow. No Doomsayer. Just Fireball or Fire Blast and pass. So what do you think he's trying to do? I guess save Doomsayer with the Blizzard, because he has an opportunity to clear out stuff. He also has an opportunity before he anticipates his opponent dropping Alviana and Kuhn and all these crazy combo pieces. He could drop the Doomsayer before that.
Yeah, and just try to stop the combo when he feels the timing's right. Yeah, that could make sense. Now, Losefield here had the option of going for a crazy Fandral double Innervate into a Nourish play.
Wow, really passive turns from both these players.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of anticipating Losefield to go a little bit more aggressive, maybe play Thanos, but choosing not to do that either.
Not even for the cycle. So valuing the spell damage a lot, and in that spot, I mean, if he wants to grab value right now, he can.
Yeah, I think by doing that, he kept his options flexible. And now with Fandral swipe. Oh, sorry. Blood Mage swipe.
Fandral swipe.
Fandral swipe is okay. Not as strong, though.
Yeah.
Blood Mage swipe lets him use his Blood Mage to get spell damage boost out of it.
I mean, we have to keep in mind that a double innervate with Malagos, it represents a free swipe that it's going to hit for a total of 9 baseline, so that is a lot. And that's usually what Malagos decks wanted to do. If he wants to keep for the full combo, he's going to have to dig for the roots.
Right, but the problem with playing Malagos anytime before you kill the Reno Mage that you might lose it, and then all of a sudden you lose the primary way to win the game.
Yep. So
I am actually heavily against the playing Malagos this turn. I would rather play. I'd rather play Fandral, Innervate, Ancient of War. That seems good to me. If you play Malagos and it gets polymorphed or removed anyway, any shape or form, you just probably run out of gas. You can't actually kill your opponent just like that.
Yeah. He's going to opt for the Nourish into a Wrath, which is going to let him kill the Drake and cycle an extra card out of his hand, but that means suddenly...
Yeah, he's overdrawing next turn. He has to dump an Innervate. Or you can... I
mean, you could double Innervate and use the Mire Keeper on top.
Look, let's not be too greedy. You already have an Emperor, so if you just ditch one of these Innervates... Okay, yeah, Feral Rage makes sense. If you ditch one of these Innervates, you still make up that difference.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, Malagos swipe becomes 11 mana. You can Innervate that out.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you have Kun and you just refresh everything.
All right, Farland's Portal can range anywhere from a 1/1 essentially to what's the highest?
What's the highest?
7/8, I think. Earth Elemental.
Yeah, Earth Elemental must be the biggest one right now. It used to be Fel Reaver, but that got turned upside down with the rotation. All right.
How good is his hand with Malagos right now? He's got Moonfire, Double Wrath, Innervate, Swipe. Actually, can't Double Wrath that. It's a decent Malagos hand. The big thing that you have to worry about is if your opponent can just deal with Malagos and then you're out of gas.
Yeah, that's actually what's going to happen if he ends up pulling the trigger on the Malagos too early, especially since he hasn't seen Polymorph, hasn't seen Kazakas. There's a few cards in there that would pose a bit of a problem.
Yep. So Staz, we're going to see if we can get value off his Bruiser now. I was thinking originally just a Flame Strike hero power, but if you play the second-rate Bruiser, you can squeeze in Arcane Blast and use Forbidden Flame. That lets you effectively clear the board.
Yeah, clear the entire board.
I wouldn't mind that. There's also just using Fireball as strict removal and then trying to
remove some armor.
Yeah, trying to keep Forbidden Flame as an opportunity to remove huge targets like Ancient of War. I kind of like the Forbidden Flame though this turn. All right, so he's keeping Forbidden Flame as an opportunity to remove a big threat like Ancient of War. Whoa! All right, we're starting to get into dangerous territories.
Now we're starting to talk about this. Is actually a pretty dangerous moment because he's got the Innervate to go with the Aviana, so it's not too far off.
Oh, he's gonna just go for it immediately. I mean, he does have Malagos Wrath.
All right, I guess we're pulling the trigger on it. Let's do it. Malagos. He's got the Moonfire, he's got the Wrath, he's got the Innervate to complement this.
And he could also pick up like other Moonfires, other Living Roots to get more damage.
I don't think there's another Moonfire, but Living Roots are still in there, I think. They haven't been played, any of them.
Right.
Speaking of the devil.
You drop this Moonfire, right? Onto the 5/1?
Seems reasonable. I mean, if you're expecting, like, worst case scenario would be something like a Polymorph into AoE. So you would risk losing too much health on a 5/10 for no reason.
But this is kind of an all-in push here. And Staz can Polymorph and Blizzard. And then chain that into a Flame Strike. Flame Strike... Forbidden Flame?
Forbidden Flame to finish off a minion?
That'd be enough.
Yeah. That would be enough.
That would be one off. But still, like, the whole point is that Druid kind of needs this damage. He needs the Ancient of War to stick around.
Yeah, it's not a matchup I'd like to have. It's interesting because it feels like this combo was meant to be triggered all at once with a Faceless and try to put all the damage to face. But now by pulling the trigger so early, Losefield is really going all in and banking on the fact that Staz has nothing to defend against this, which if you've seen how many cards he's got or he's held on to, you know, that Doomsayer could well be a Reno, you know, at this stage. You haven't seen it played for a long time, so you're hoping that you can OTK with Swipe and Living Roots if the opponent doesn't get too cautious. But in this case, Staz has the perfect answer to Malagos. It's just going to stall until he can clean up everything. You ever kill Aviana here?
I don't even mind just pinging preemptively to set up for a good Blizzard Flame Strike chain. Oh, wow. Oh, he's running out of time. Okay, so he chooses the Blizzard. The problem with Blizzard is that Flame Strike Forbidden Flame doesn't kill the 5/8, so I was thinking about pinging first and whatnot. But I think Staz was really worried about Aviana playing minions really cheap. But think about some of the minions that remain.
Yeah, what is there?
There's
really?
Kun, there's another Azure Drake, there's a Mire Keeper, and another Ancient of War. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, it is if he gets it all in one turn, but not that significant considering how he still has Flame Strike.
Yeah, he'd have to top deck Kun, because if it were there, you probably would have seen it last turn, so you know it's not in the range of cards you can really expect out of your opponent. So I think Blizzard was overall a pretty good alternative. It's a good in-between.
Yeah,
not be
don't
too
mind
risky.
it. So now Staz has the option of removing the Aviana or the Ancient of War, and then being able to play some other stuff here. So looks like he's just gonna Forbidden Flame, use this Doomsayer to draw out some of the removal, but you know, Losefield was hoping for this opportunity, so Wrath can draw cards. The beauty of Kun and Aviana is that Kun can just refresh, you know, at any time, so you're effectively playing with 19 to 20 crystals.
Yeah, if he picks up like large minions here, which is
A second Aviana,
which is probably what he's looking for.
I
I mean, you might take the wobbling runs in that
Yeah,
spot
maybe
because it's a
Wobbling
lot more
Runs is
resilient.
better. Imagine if you could take Adult Grizzly with Wobbling Runs. Woo!
Or Adult Grizzly with Living Roots, live the dream, do it.
Yeah, or just Wobbling Runs, the same thing.
Yeah.
Summon 2/2s.
Yeah. He's gonna go with the Adult Grizzly. Okay.
Really?
Are we going all in this turn?
I was kind of joking about the whole Living Roots thing.
Yeah, I thought I was memeing. I didn't anticipate this ever. Okay, full mana usage before
Living
the
Roots.
Kun.
But you might as well just play Kun for armor. There's no point in refreshing your crystals.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you know what? I gotta say that if Adult Grizzly and Doppelganger are the same, I guess what this is more immediate power.
Yeah, it's like a force of nature, effectively. Like, he's played 3 2/2s on the board, and he's hoping that he can connect them all to face as soon as possible with the backup of 8 damage he's got in hand.
Yeah.
So
Wobbling Runs takes a while to get out, so maybe that's the problem.
yeah.
All right, so Flame Strike is pretty important here just to reduce 11 power off the board. What do you do with the remaining 3? Do you want a Cabal Courier or do you want an Arcane Intellect?
I might start with Cabal Courier, see if I can pick up, say, a Nova in a weird spot like this one.
Yeah,
Maybe
or
stall
Blizzard.
one extra turn. Yeah,
Blizzard
sure.
would be great.
Blizzard's good as well.
Yeah, let's start off with the Cabal Courier. I wonder if there's any Priest or Warlock cards. Maybe like Doom or Twisting Nether. Fireball is great. Cabal Courier is a card that I heavily underestimated. I thought it was going to be like, okay. Turns out it's great.
Yeah, I think Courier was the most playable of all the ones that were shown. If the Grimy Goons had been better, probably we would have seen some of the Grime Stream Foreman played a bit more, but didn't turn out to really work out as the Tribe as much as the Cabal one. Plus, all those Reno decks are kind of looking for value anywhere they can find it, and that's one of those cards that generates another card for you to use. So
I would have loved to see the Grime Street Informant be a 2/1, but then I could also see people be like, what happened to my Novice Engineer, bro?
Power creep. We went there, Shadow
I don't know
Ranger.
why, but the volume peaked for that.
Yeah, it just...
I don't feel like I raised my voice that much, man.
You just got really mad about your Novice, man.
I didn't. I swear.
Yeah.
I was perfectly calm.
All right,
so
5 mana,
Kazakis,
4 damage.
4 damage would be mint. There it is. 4 damage to all minions.
Fell Bloom. We got to memorize the name of those herbs, right?
Does the Gold Thorn work that way? Where you...
Yeah, I think it works first.
Kazakis ends up living?
Yeah, I think it's ordered in the right way no matter what.
All right.
We'll never know.
Staz chooses to gain armor instead, just in case his opponent bursts him down. Now, you know, Losefield actually does have some gas here. Medivh the Guardian being able to come out as a 7/7 is pretty important. I don't really think that Atish is that important, which is really funny that Staz actually has a Swampahoost for this. Like, it's hilarious to me.
Yeah, the odds of him actually having the
man.
something to use this ooze on in the matchup is
Losefield
ridiculous.
is so pissed.
But he gets another 7-7 in that spot. Oh, never mind.
He can even book as well. I don't think book would have changed anything.
Yeah. But draw last.
Draw last. And that should do it. This is exactly why we were talking about how Faceless Manipulator feels a little weak. It's a 5-minute 3-3. I can think about 25 drops off the top of my head that'd be much better than just a 3-3.
Yeah.
I have seen that card succeed in 0 games. Oh, he's waiting for a big card. He's waiting for Alex Straza to come out and then play Faceless
Archmage. Let's do it. You go Archmage, Mulch. Live the dream.
Yeah, but I mean, Staz knows that his opponent's on a clock, so he's the one who has to play a minion. So he never has to play a minion. Heads up play from Staz.
Yeah, recognizes he doesn't have to play into it. No need to play Jiraxis when there could be a sack pact on the other side.
And Losefield, living true to his name, just play. he's playing on borrowed time right now. There's no way that he wins this long term. But yeah, just play it. Why not? You know the last card's Faces.
You've got to assume. I mean, you've got the list, so know what's in there. So going back to that Faceless Manipulator, again, it's only a card you're going to be using in this deck to combine with everything else in your combo chain. So Aviana with the Malagos, with Living Roots, with Moonfires to OTK, a control deck. So having had to pull the trigger so early just felt really crippling for Losefield. And as you can see here, down to fatigue and nothing else to do.
It's just so ironic to me that his name is Losefield and he plays a deck that loses to the field. I mean, Mally Druid does have pretty strong matchups against a lot of Reno decks, and specifically, but Faceless Manipulator, I just think it's a little bit too greedy. However, Losefield has won one series, but he